City of Johannesburg has the highest number of coronavirus infections in the Gauteng province. So 440 of the 782 infections in the province are in the city of Gold. Gauteng Premier David Makhura says the focus now is on screening so they can identify people who need to be tested. So 90% of people are being tracked, have now been located and tested. Law enforcement has also been stepped up to ensure people comply with the lockdown rules, which has been a challenge. We'll hear from SABC reporter Nozintombi Miya shortly. The Premier says they have stockpiled protective clothing for healthcare workers. South Africa currently has 184 confirmed cases with 18 deaths, as we indicated a few moments ago. So let's chat a bit about that now. SABC journalist Nozintombi Miya attended that press briefing for us. A very good evening to you, Nozintombi. Just joining me from our studio just to the back of me here. Nozintombi, thanks for your time indeed. So Gauteng remains the epicentre of the virus in the country. Premier David Makhura concerned, though, about Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni and Tshwane. Tell us more.
You're quite right, Griselda. The Premier is quite concerned about the numbers that we're seeing, specifically in the city of Johannesburg, 440 confirmed cases. Ekurhuleni comes in as the second highest at 110 cases confirmed, and the city of Tshwane at 90 cases. And this is quite concerning because it paints a picture of a lack of compliance with the lockdown rules, because it's showing us that this particular virus is spreading in and around the city, in and around the province, and it goes to the issue of compliance. So that means that the Gauteng Premier is going to have to ensure that, working with the police, especially the community police in this province, they have to step up the rate of compliance. So that means more roadblocks on our provincial road. That means that we need to start seeing more visibility of the army, of the South African police, stopping people as they're walking to and from. People need to be made sure that they are going out only if they are essential services workers, or if they have the correct permits to ensure that they are going about their business that they have to go about, which is making sure that they go and buy essential services for food sources in their house and not going to visit their friends or their families. And it's so important that in this particular province, where throughout the nation, the city of Gauteng, the province of Gauteng, is the highest, has the highest infection rates, and the city of Johannesburg has the highest infection rates. So the Premier has to make sure that he locks down on any unnecessary movement and he steps up on compliance. Griselda.
Nozintombi, just looking at concerns that were raised by the Transport Ministry just earlier today. So the number of arrests at these roadblocks clearly gives an indication of what you've just spoken about, non-compliance to the lockdown regulations. What did he say about addressing this particular challenge?
We know that just yesterday in the city of Johannesburg, more than 100 motorists were arrested for non-compliance. And this is problematic because it means that the punitive measures that will be taken against motorists and individuals that don't comply will affect them negatively. And we know that for people who are arrested for infringing on the lockdown rules, could possibly be slapped with a fine of 1,500 rands, or possibly spend 6 months in jail as a result of them flouting the lockdown rules. And it's utterly important for not just the transport officials, but also for law enforcement agencies to work with the people to ensure that people stay safe, stay in the houses, especially leading up to this Easter weekend. And you will have seen, or you will have heard about the rising numbers of people who've been arrested on the roads just on this day, which is Thursday, day before Easter Friday. And it's utterly important for the Transport Ministry and for law enforcement to make sure that people minimize their movement and only essential services workers go about their businesses. They need to ensure that taxi drivers are compliant. Some taxi drivers were arrested today for flouting the 70% rule, and that means that they've overloaded their taxis, and the ramifications of these are quite horrifying when you think about it. That if anything happens in those taxis and any one of those passengers has unwittingly become positive of the COVID virus, that means all those people in that taxi have to be screened. So it's so important that not just citizens in their houses, but also taxi officials are aware of how their behavior and their actions will impact on the entire province, and not just the province, but also on the country.
Nozintombi, I'm very interested in part of what you spoke about already about the Easter weekend. There seems to be great concern about that, why there might be a certain, agitation amongst South Africans to move around on what would have been a time to either go to church or travel to go and see your family. Did the Premier or any of the other MECs in attendance there speak about, scaling up the number of roadblocks, in particular during this time, to deal with those who might not adhere to the regulations?
So the Community Safety MEC, Ma'am Faith Mazibuko, spoke about the increase that we're seeing in police patrolling. And that means that law enforcement agencies such as the South African Police, such as the South African National Defence Force, as well as Metro Police, will be working in conjunction to step up the patrols in and around the province and also on the secondary roads. And not just ensuring that there's stepped up visibility, but they'll also be continuing with the Operation Ukai Mulau that has been taking place from the very beginning of this year. And they're hoping that in ensuring police visibility, not just on the roads, but also on the secondary roads, but also in the high density areas such as the townships, the informal settlements, as well as in the suburbs, it will discourage any behavior from people that could seek to undermine the lockdown rules and try and curb the scourge of this particular virus, because this weekend is one of the other important weekends where we are expecting that people would want to go visit their loved ones, would want to celebrate Easter with their loved ones. So the MEC for Community Safety has assured the South African public and the Gauteng residents that they will be stepping up on their visibility on the streets. So they're urging people to comply and to make sure that they don't make any unnecessary movements and they stay in their homes for their own safety and for the safety of those around them. Criselda.
Right, SABC journalist, reporter here in Johannesburg, Nozintombi Miya, attending that press conference for us. Thanks indeed for